Hey everyone! As you might remember in the last video, my car's interior got flooded because the drainage holes in my Audi A6 were clogged. The drains got blocked, leaving the water with nowhere to go, so it started leaking into the cabin through the engine control unit and flooded the entire interior. So in this video, we're going to replace the ECU gasket, check the area where water might be seeping in, and also take a look at another potential leak point, the cabin air filter. We'll remove this cover, inspect the gasket, see what condition it's in, and figure out a way to replace it if needed. For better access, we first remove the plastic cover. If you want to see how to do this, check out my video where I show how to remove the windshield wiper linkage. Once that's off, we can begin removing the ECU cover. There are 5 bolts here that need to be unscrewed before we can open the cover. Here's the engine control unit. I can still see water inside. Even though it's been about 5 days, the water is still there. Luckily, it doesn't look like it reached the ECU or the contacts, but it's still sitting inside. That means the gasket here must have deteriorated. When the water level rose, it started seeping in through this spot. The ECU gasket, which runs along the edge, has cracked and dried out over time, allowing water to pass through. Now I'll try to shift the ECU to the side so we can remove the mounting bolts. There's one on the outside and another one inside the ECU housing. Once we remove those, we can lift the plastic casing and replace the gasket. Over time, water also leaks in through the cabin air filter. Most likely, it seeps in right underneath the filter housing. There's a foam gasket there, but as you can see, it has completely deteriorated. Look at this, it just crumbles apart. If I pinch it, it's completely soaked and falling apart. Now we'll lift the plastic cover, remove the old gasket, figure out what to replace it with, and seal everything with silicone to prevent future leaks. Now, let's remove the ECU. To do this, we first take off this retaining clip that holds it in place. The clip comes off easily, just pry it up with a screwdriver to release it. That's it! The clip is off. Here's what it looks like. We'll reinstall it later and tighten it down. Now we can lift the ECU. There's still water underneath it, but fortunately the exposed wires weren't affected and nothing shorted out. Some wires got a bit damp, but I don't think it's a big issue. Next, we need to unscrew these bolts to remove the plastic housing. There's a 10mm nut on this side and another one on the opposite side. Thankfully, the nuts aren't stuck or rusted after all these years, so they come off easily. To relieve some tension on the wires, we can slightly lift the wiring harness. See? I just raised it a bit. We do the same with the rubber grommet here. The ECU housing is tightly sealed, so we can carefully pry it up with a screwdriver where we remove the nuts. Do the same on the other side. Inside there's a relay board that might get in the way, so we'll remove that too. Just press the 2 clips and it comes right off. Now we carefully pry the ECU housing off the mounting studs from both sides, and after that, we can remove it completely. Remember, we can't install the new gasket until we disconnect these 4 connectors linking the wiring harness to the cabin, so we unplug the connectors and take out the ECU housing. Now let's move on to the second vulnerable spot, the cabin air filter. We'll remove the housing and replace the gasket. There are 3 10mm nuts here, just like on the ECU. Grab a socket and unscrew them. The nuts are off so we can lift the housing. Carefully raise it to prevent any foam residue from falling inside. What do we see? The gasket is completely soaked. Water is seeping through it, soaking the foam. Over time, it has just fallen apart. Look at this, it's nothing but crumbling foam pieces now. We'll clean everything up and decide on a replacement. I checked online, and instead of ordering a new foam gasket, we can use a roofing seal. It's water resistant, so let's give it a try. Now we disconnect the battery to safely unplug the connectors. The plugs are disconnected, and they can't be mixed up since each one has a different color. Now we can move the ECU wiring harness aside and remove the plastic housing. I've moved the relay's wiring harness and housing aside, and now I'm taking out the old gasket to inspect its condition. Here's the old gasket. It's still intact, but you can see it has some cracks and has become thinner. This is probably where the water was leaking through. Next, we clean everything, degrease the area, place the new gasket, apply some sealant, and put everything back together. I ordered an original gasket. Here's what it looks like. It's new and thick, whereas the old one was really thin. Before installing the new gasket, I decided to add a bit of sealant just in case. I set the gasket in place with sealant and also applied a thin layer around the perimeter of the housing. Now we reinstall everything, tighten the bolts, and reconnect the wiring harness. The housing is in place. Don't forget that water can also seep through the nut inside the box, so I added a little sealant under it as well, just to be safe. Now the last step is to reinstall the ECU and reconnect all the plugs. After installing the ECU, I realized that water could also enter through the rubber wiring grommet. Mine wasn't fully seated, leaving a small gap. If the drains are clogged, water can leak right through here. That's why it's important to check your drains. If they're blocked, the water level rises and there are plenty of places it can seep into. Now back to the cabin filter. I removed the old foam, degreased the area, and replaced it with a roofing seal. It fits snugly, even better than the original one. I applied sealant to the cover and carefully reinstalled it. That's it. Now we wait for the sealant to dry before testing. I'll pour some water over it, check for leaks, and fix any issues if needed. As you can see, replacing the gaskets, sealing everything up, and stopping leaks isn't that difficult. All right, that's all for now. See you next time.